Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling a book that promises to change how we see those inevitable roadblocks. We're diving into Krishna VR's The Circle Back Effect, transforming challenges into opportunities.
Sounds intriguing.
Right. And it's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about using setbacks strategically, kind of turning those lemons into lemonade, you know?
Yeah, I get that. But what exactly is this circle back effect? Is it just a fancy way of saying bounce back?
Well, the book goes deeper than that. It argues that challenges are actually, wait for it, catalysts for positive change.
Okay, so not just bouncing back, but using those challenges to actually move forward.
Exactly. It's like, imagine a hiker trying to reach a mountain summit.
Oh, okay. I like where this is going.
They hit a dead end, right? But instead of giving up, they circle back, find a new path, and eventually reach their goal.
I see. So it's about finding a new way forward, not just going back to where you started. That's a much better analogy than just bouncing back, circling back, finding a new path. Right. And it's not just a one-time thing. It's a constant process. The book emphasizes the cyclical nature of it.
Cyclical.
You go from that initial frustration to analyzing what went wrong, then adapting your approach. And that leads you to, well, a brand new opportunity you might not have even seen before.
So it's not just about fixing the problem, but finding something even better because of it.
Exactly. And the coolest part, it applies to everything. Your personal life, career, even how entire societies evolve, you name it.
Wow, okay, that's a pretty bold claim. I'm definitely hooked now. But, it makes me wonder, where did this circle back idea come from? Is it a brand new concept?
Well, actually, its roots go way back. Ancient philosophies were all about revisiting core ideas for growth.
Oh, so it's not just some trendy new buzzword.
Definitely not. It's got some serious historical weight behind it, but it's not just some dusty old concept either.
Okay, so who else was on board with this circling back idea?
Think of management gurus like Peter Drucker, who was a big proponent of feedback loops and, wait for it, constantly adapting. That's circling back in action.
So we've got ancient wisdom meeting modern business savvy. I'm liking this more and more. But how did circling back become so, essential in today's world? Why now?
If we look at the big picture, the 20th century saw this huge boom in technology and communication, right?
Yeah, for sure. Information overload.
Exactly. That made constant adaptation crucial for any business to survive. You can't just set a plan in motion and never look back. The world is constantly changing. Businesses have to keep pace.
Makes total sense. So it's like circling back became a necessity, not just a good idea.
Right. But you know what really gets me excited about this concept? The real-life examples. I love a good comeback story, and I hear the book is full of them.
Oh, there's so many. Let's talk about Apple in the late 90s. They were struggling, losing market share. Everyone thought they were done for.
Wow, Apple. Hard to imagine them struggling like that now.
Right. But they didn't give up. Instead of throwing in the towel, they circled back to what made them unique. They doubled down on innovation, user experience, and boom, the iMac was born.
And that led to everything else that made them the tech giant we know today.
Exactly. They turned a near-death experience into, a total resurgence.
It's amazing how even giants can stumble. But what's really inspiring is that they didn't just crumble. They used that challenge to rediscover their strengths. It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But sometimes it's hard to see that when you're in the thick of it, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about big tech companies either. Think about Starbucks in the early 2000s.
Oh, what happened with Starbucks?
Well, they were expanding super rapidly, but the quality and customer experience, it was taking a hit. Sales dipped. They had a choice to make.
Yeah.
Keep pushing for more stores or
circle back to what made people love them in the first place.
You got it. Howard Schultz, their CEO, came back, and they focused on the quality of their coffee and the atmosphere of their stores. They reminded everyone why Starbucks was special.
And it worked.
It did. Not only did they recover, but they became even more successful than before.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. These companies faced serious problems, but instead of panicking, they circled back, used those challenges to improve.
And it's not just business either. Think about universities during COVID. They had to adapt to online learning almost overnight. Talk about a challenge.
Yeah, that was a huge adjustment for everyone.
Right. But instead of seeing it as a temporary fix, some universities embraced it. They expanded their online offerings, improved their tech, and really focused on student well-being.
So they turned a crisis into an opportunity to innovate.
Exactly. And now, many of those changes are here to stay, making education more flexible and accessible.
So we've got tech, coffee, education. Is there any part of life where this circle back effect doesn't apply? It seems pretty universal so far.
You're right, it is pretty universal. It's relevant to pretty much any challenge you face, big or small.
So, no matter what we're going through, we can apply these principles.
That's the idea. But, and this is where it gets real for all of us, the book emphasizes that actually identifying those challenges is often the hardest part.
Oh, because sometimes it's easier to just pretend they're not there.
Yeah.
I've definitely been guilty of that. Just last week I was.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
all do it. And this is where it gets personal, because everyone listening right now, we all face those everyday challenges.
Oh, for sure.
Think about it.
Hmm.
That constant struggle to manage your time between work, family, and personal life, that's a universal challenge.
Absolutely. It's like there are never enough hours in the day.
Right. And that can lead to stress, burnout, even health issues if you're not careful.
And then you've got those communication breakdowns.
Oh, don't even get me started on those.
Those can happen anywhere, at work, at home.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter.
And those misunderstandings, they can lead to so much conflict and frustration.
And sometimes it feels impossible to know where to even begin to sort it all out.
Exactly. And we can't forget about financial worries.
Ugh, yes. Those are a big one.
They can cause so much anxiety and strain relationships. It's tough.
For sure. And of course, there are health challenges, both physical and mental, that can impact every aspect of your life.
It's a lot to deal with. And sometimes it feels easier to just try to power through and hope those problems just disappear.
You know, you bring up a good point. Why not just try to ignore those obstacles and hope they go away?
Because, and I think the book really nails this, ignoring problems doesn't make them go away. In fact, it usually just makes them worse.
That's so true. It's like sweeping dirt under the rug. It might look clean for a little while, but eventually it's just going to create a bigger mess.
Exactly. And that's why the circle back effect emphasizes being transparent and honest about what's not working. That applies to teams at work, but also to each of us individually.
Being honest with yourself about what's not working, that's got to be the first step, right?
Absolutely. Acknowledging the obstacle isn't about dwelling on it. It's about understanding it.
So it's about looking those challenges in the eye and figuring out what's really going on.
Right. And the book encourages us to go even deeper. Look for the root causes. Because those challenges, a lot of times they're just symptoms of something bigger.
So it's like detective work. We're looking for clues to figure out why things are happening the way they are.
Exactly. And one thing that really stood out to me is how the book highlights the role of leadership in all of this.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, when leaders openly acknowledge that there are problems, it sets the tone for the whole organization. It gives everyone permission to admit that things aren't perfect. And that's got to be the first step towards actually fixing them, right?
Right. It creates a culture of honesty and transparency. I like it.
Mm.
But I think for a lot of people, the biggest hurdle, it's overcoming that fear of failure. I know that's something I struggle with. Have you ever felt that way?
Oh, of course. Fear of failure, it's a powerful emotion. It can be really paralyzing.
It stops us from taking risks, trying new things, putting ourselves out there.
Exactly. And a lot of times it comes from past experiences or societal pressures. But the circle back effect offers a different perspective.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about that. How do we deal with that fear of failure?
Well, it's about reframing failure as, well, a stepping stone.
Okay, reframing failure. I have a feeling this is going to be a key part of this whole circle back effect.
It really is. And it all comes down to shifting your mindset. The book introduces this concept of the growth mindset from Carol Dweck. Have you ever felt stuck on something and just believed you couldn't get any better? Or have you ever looked at a mistake and thought, okay, what can I learn from this? That's the difference in mindset.
So instead of seeing setbacks as failures, they become opportunities to learn and grow.
Exactly. And it ties back to that long-term thinking we talked about earlier. With a growth mindset, you don't get bogged down by slow progress.
You focus on where you're headed and trust that the effort you put in, it'll eventually get you there.
Right. And it makes you realize that feedback isn't criticism, it's information. It's a much more empowering way to look at things, don't you think?
It really is, but even knowing this, putting it into practice is a whole other story.
So true.
Okay, before we get into how we can actually put this into practice, let's pause here for a moment. When we come back, we'll dive into some of the practical strategies in the circle back effect for overcoming that fear of failure and actually using challenges to your advantage. Okay, so we've talked about this whole mindset shift thing, but knowing and doing are two different things, right? How do we actually put all this into practice? Like, what are some actual strategies from the book that we can, like, actually use in our lives?
Yeah, no, totally. The book lays out a pretty practical roadmap for turning those challenges into opportunities.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
It all starts with analyzing the situation. Really dissecting it. You know, what exactly are you dealing with? What could be those root causes? And this is where getting different perspectives can be super helpful.
Oh, that's so true. It's so easy to get stuck in our own heads sometimes.
Totally. And sometimes you just need that outside perspective to point out something you never would have noticed on your own.
Yeah, like you're so focused on the details, you miss the bigger picture.
Exactly. Once you've got a handle on the problem, then it's time to get creative with those solutions. The book suggests techniques like brainstorming, mind mapping, even role-playing.
Wait, role-playing? That's kind of interesting.
I know, right? It might sound a little weird, but it can really help you see things from a different angle.
I can see how that could be helpful, though I imagine it could be a little intimidating for some people who aren't used to, putting themselves out there like that.
Oh, for sure. If role-playing isn't your thing, there are tons of other ways to get out of those mental ruts.
Oh, what?
Well, one thing I find really helpful is trying to explain the problem to someone who knows nothing about it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the act of simplifying and explaining it out loud forces you to think about it in a new way.
That's a good one. And it's something anyone can do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't need any fancy tools, just a willingness to think differently.
Love it. Okay, so you've analyzed the problem, brainstormed some solutions. What's next?
Then it's all about setting SMART goals.
Ah, yes, SMART goals. I've heard of those, but remind me what they are again.
Oh, yeah. So SMART goals are goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Each of those elements is crucial for turning a vague idea into, well, a concrete plan you can actually act on.
So it's not just about saying, like, I want to be happier, or I want to be more successful.
Right. It's about getting really specific about what you want to achieve.
Can you give me an example?